We are going to do the last of the forms, which is a sphere. We find spheres in a lot of places. Berries, even your fingertip to a certain extent can be looked at as a sphere. So understanding how light transfers around that form is a good, or models around that form is a good skill to have. So this is our sphere. It is, I don't know, roughly 2 inches, 2-inch sphere. Yeah, about. I'm going to make it fairly close in size. So the easiest way I know to do that is just simply to take a ruler and mark it 2 inches wide, figure out where the center is, and then go the other way, 2 inches wide. It doesn't have to be 2 inches wide, but look at how big it is in your square or in your rectangle here. No tiny spheres, fairly good sized. Once I've got that, here's what all kids do, okay? They put their hands down, lay it down, and they try to like do each quarter. It actually works better if you move back on your pencil, keep your hand above ground, and move from the shoulder. Don't try to do it with your fingers. Don't try to do it with your wrist. Keep that part really, really stiff. And then move from your shoulder. And you'll get something that is closer to an actual circle. And then once you've kind of got it, then you can go and flesh it out with a little bit more even of an arc. May even help if you change your direction. So this is not a perfect circle. I'm not so worried about it being a perfect circle as I perfect the drawing itself and do my shading. Things will come together and smooth out. But it gives me a really good point for starting. If you're just really circle defunct, you can grab a lid or use a compass if you've got one. Whatever works to get that circle shape in there for you. And then I got to think about where my light source is. My light source is going to be coming from this upper right again, slightly to the side. And it casts a fairly bright circular highlight. And then because of where the light's coming from and where I have this sitting on my desk, I have it sitting a little bit closer under the light. So the light's a little, not quite so far in the front on this one. It's a little bit more on this side. And the shadow is coming slightly forward. I also opened my blinds, so my window over here behind it is casting a little bit of extra light too. So when you're dealing with something like this, it's rounded, you end up with kind of what we call 4 different areas. You end up with your highlight. That is your lightest, your brightest. This is a white sphere. So that's really going to be just the white of my paper. Unless I use like a chalk or something, I'm not going to get any whiter than that. And then you have to take a look at the different areas. So you end up with, over in this area, what we call the core shadow. And it is a dark shadow that follows that circular, spherical shape. And it goes kind of through that middle of the dark side of the object. And that's called the core. Then you have your darkest shadow right underneath the object. And you get, from this white tabletop or white paper, you get this bounce light that comes back in under here. The main color of the object, or the mid-tone of the object, falls in this area, right around your highlight. So those are the kind of the 4 areas that we're going to look at. And again, I don't want my edge to be this super black outline. So I'm going to lighten up my outline. And I don't want an outline around my highlight. So what I have to do is work my shading into it. Way back on my pencil, I have one of my lighter pencils. I got my B here. You might be using an HB for this. Scoot way back on that pencil. And establish what your mid-tone or your base value is going to be. So you get this circular highlight right in through here. Then we start looking at the darker side a little bit. And I'm just staying with my lighter pencil. I always work light to dark, general to specific. So I'm kind of establishing my 3 base values here, or where they're going to be anyway. Again, if it's easier, which for me it is, turn it. I want to get this core a little bit darker, but I don't want to go too dark just yet. I need my bounced light area down in here to be darker than this, but not as dark as my core. And as that comes around to this bottom, this edge is a little bit richer than the part above it. I work in little small strokes, a lot of times circular, little slight circles. And then the very richest part of this, because this is tucking back underneath, you're really getting a rich, dark shadow right underneath the edge. And then that's blending out to the larger shadow underneath, which is still pretty dark. And then the edge of that, as it gets further away from our form, starts to blur out. It gets what we call a soft edge. Again, I use those little circular strokes. Keep it as rounded as I can. Alright, so now that I kind of know what my darkest, where I want it to sit, now I can go back into my sphere to that core shadow area and start to really rich that dark side up. And again, I'm going to switch pencils now. And I'm going to switch to that 2B. Pull a little bit of shadow right underneath here. Right at the edge. And again with that cross contour kind of, instead of going up and down the object or following that edge all the time, I'm kind of going across a little bit and pulling into that next darker area.